Hello, everybody. So let's get into this article right here. All right. MAGA allies say they finally admit Project 25 is the agenda for Trump's second term. In an apparent attempt to troll their political opponents, MAGA allies gleefully announced the extreme conservative blueprint is on the Trump agenda. MAGA allies have boasted they can finally admit that Project 2025 is on the agenda when Donald Trump returns to the White House next year. Steve Bannon, Trump's former White House chief of strategist, who walked free from prison just days before the election, took to his War Room podcast on Wednesday to joke that Project 2025 is the agenda for the former president's second term. Bannon cited on social media posts by conservative activist Matt Walsh, who baited Kamala Harris supporters about the right-wing blueprint. Now that the election is over, I think we can finally say that, yeah, actually, Project 2025 is the agenda. LOL. Walsh posted on X and a likely bid to get a rise out of the political opponents. Matt Walsh, I think, is a very smart and funny guy, Bannon said on his podcast. Now that the election is over, I think we can finally say that. Fabulous. Fabulous, Bannon laughed. Put that everywhere. Other MAGA figures joined in with the taunting. Texas Tarrant County GOP chair Bo French said in a post on X, so we can admit now that we are going to implement Project 2025. The Republican, who has come under fire for homophobic slurs against his political opponents, received backlash for the post. Proud of lying, not even a noble lie, just run-of-the-mill self-serving lie. True role model for your children, someone said. French claimed it was a joke. Once again, you prove that leftists have no sense of humor. How sad you are. Cry more, he said. He added the left and some of the right just need to remember what comedy is. How many of you know that the right is terrible at telling jokes? Conservative commentator on YouTuber Benny Johnson also posted, "It is my honor to inform you all that Project 2025 was real the whole time." His post had a mixed response. A fellow Trump supporter said, "Stop. I'm warning all of you, stop antagonizing him. Just stop. Project 2025 is a 900-page plan drawn up by former Trump aides and endorsed by a powerful right-wing think tank, has long been seen as a roadmap for Trump's second administration. The blueprint, spearheaded by the Heritage Foundation and more than a dozen former Trump administration officials, is essentially a wish list for the next Republican administration, with plans to expand executive authority, replace civil servants with ideological aligned appointees, crush abortion rights, and impose an anti-immigration agenda, among other policies. Harris repeatedly warned against Project 2025's ambitions during her presidential campaign. Can you believe that they would put that thing in writing? Read it. It's 900 pages, she said at a rally this summer. My thing is with, my thing with Kamala Harris trying to say that, Project 2025, they're racist and stuff. But you were supporting for 4 years neo-Nazis, man. You and Joe Biden. You were supporting Zelensky, who has his Azov Battalion neo-Nazi military group in Ukraine, okay, upholding his dictatorship. And you were supporting it, giving billions of dollars, okay, to Ukraine when we have issues here in America. People are homeless, people are hungry, people are put out of jobs because they didn't want to take the solution. If you remember about 2020, what Joe Biden was doing, all right? So if she's calling Trump racist, but you're doing that, you're supporting neo-Nazis, doesn't that mean you're a hypocrite as well? I'm just saying. How many remember about AOC when she went to a town hall meeting and her supporters called her out for supporting neo-Nazis, for supporting Joe Biden's donations to Ukraine, one of the most corrupt governments in the world, known for child trafficking, illegal organ harvesting, and neo-Nazi white supremacist beliefs. Despite his obvious ties to the blueprint, with its authors coming from Trump's White House and GOP's close links to the group that launched it, Trump repeatedly tried to distance himself from the plan on the campaign trail, claiming that he knew nothing about it or who is behind it. At a rally in Michigan, Trump told the crowd some on the right, severe right, came up with this Project 25. I don't even know some of them. I know who they are, but they're very, very conservative. They're sort of the opposite of the radical. Let's read that again. At a rally in Michigan, Trump told the crowd, some on the right, severe right, came up with this Project 2025. I don't even know some of them. I know who they are. Does that make any sense? I don't even know some of them. I know who they are, but they are very, very conservative. They're sort of the opposite of the radical left. You say you don't know them, but you do know them. It, Trump is a liar. I don't know how to tell. And you know what? You will have people on the right that will be like, Trump doesn't, Trump was against the wall. He didn't know what he could do. It's the same way they act with Obama, when he went 2 terms, all right, 8 years without giving blacks reparations. Well, his hands were tied, and you gotta blame Bush. He just did. His back was against the wall. His hands were tied. You just don't know. It's the same thing. Giving grace to someone that you like, not because they're actually trying to do their job as a president of your country. No, because you just like them because of the things they say. No matter if those things are divisive, no matter if those things are inflammatory, no matter if those things don't help the country come together, but tear it apart. Okay? No matter if he says racist things like Kung Flu, all right? Or says Africa is a S-hole, all right? Or refuses to give aid in Puerto Rico when they were dealing with a storm, the aftermath of a storm, then throwing toilet paper at them like they're animals, or allowing a comedian to come up on stage and call Puerto Rico an island of garbage. Or how about the fact when he was president in his first term and said that we should pull a coup on Venezuela and take their oil, bragging about that. That's the thing. Yeah. And that's basically what we're dealing with, okay? You're dealing with fanboys, not people actually wanting someone to actually do good for the country. You're dealing with fanboys on both sides, especially with the Republican side. All right? So I don't know what really to tell black people because I didn't vote. I didn't vote because I saw the garbage coming from both sides. I saw the white supremacy coming from spewing from both sides of their mouths. And what really burned me up was the fact that blacks on the left, the Democrats, are always crying about white supremacy, the unfairness treatment towards black Americans in this country. And you let a South Asian woman play in your face and say that she's a black woman when throughout her whole tenure being VP under Biden, she said she's a proud South Asian woman. And you let her get away with that. It's disgusting. It's disheartening. And then when people are trying to call you out and saying, what are you doing? Did you leave your brain at the door? She's not black. She is Asian. She gave 26 billion to the Asian community nothing for blacks, black Americans. And they want to hide behind, well, she's just the VP, she's just the vice president. She can't really do anything. Well, 26 billion to another demographic that is her own. I don't know. Doesn't seem like she's that much handicapped in my eyes. Those of us with a brain. All right. Project 2025's distortion of civil rights threatens Americans with legalized discrimination. Far-right extremists have a plan to dismantle many civil rights protections that have advanced equality in America over the past 60 years. Civil Rights Act of 1964, which recently marked its 60th anniversary, transformed the United States by paving the way for a more equitable society. Its passage outlawed discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, and sex. The act prohibits discrimination in public accommodations, employment, and federal funded programs. It also established a framework for filing discrimination suits within the federal government by expanding the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights mandate and establishing the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which is responsible for enforcing laws that prevent and remedy discrimination in the workplace. As one of the cornerstones of the civil rights movement, the act impacts is reflected in the desegregation of schools, the diversification of the U.S. workforce, and the increased representation of marginalized communities in public life. Furthermore, the Civil Rights Act opened the door for the advancement of other civil rights protections for marginalized populations and expanded the definition of a full citizenship in the United States. Project 2025, a 900-plus page authoritarian playbook for a future presidential administration, seeks to turn back the clock on many of these protections. If implemented, it would dilute or destroy several vital tools that are used to protect Americans from discrimination. This article outlines this far-right agenda would lead to a resurgence of discrimination in public places, a rollback of employment protections, and federal government being able to effectively sanction inequality and injustice. Okay. Removing federal civil protections for millions of Americans. The Civil Rights Act ensures that people of color have access to integrated health care, desegregation education, and equal employment protections. And although a race and class divide still exists, the law made significant progress on equality in the United States. The far-right proposals in Project 2025 and in legislation already put forward in state legislature around the country strive to reverse much of that progress by drawing a bright line between Americans who their proponents deem worthy of full citizenship and those regulated to second-class status. These are well-coordinated and dangerous and profoundly racist attempts to just transform American life to match a vision rooted in a nationalist ideology that America was founded as a white nation and should remain so. Okay. Project 2025 would exempt entities such as religious colleges, employers, and healthcare providers from anti-discrimination laws and seek to regulate gender and family policies based on a conservative religious perspective. Project 2025 would take America back in time by removing civil rights protections from anyone whose its authors do not deem worthy of protection. The policy documents opens with a call for the next president to delete terms such as sexual orientation, gender identity, diversity, equity and inclusion, gender equality, reproductive health, and reproductive rights out of every federal rule, agency, regulation, contract, grant, regulation, and piece of legislation that exists, pushing Americans in those categories outside of the scope of federal protection. This is dangerous agenda is already playing out in the state legislatures nationwide, where hundreds of bills reflecting the same active hostility toward people of color, LGBTQI plus individuals, women, and children have been introduced. Those that have become law are responsible for banning diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. DEIA. Policies regulating access to bathrooms and locker rooms for transgender people, criminalizing homelessness, limiting what can be taught to K-12 and college students, and restricting access to best practice healthcare. Many states have made the practice of book banning commonplace. Florida leads with the highest number of book bans, followed by Texas, Missouri, Utah, Pennsylvania. Project 25 would supercharge this regression and take it nationwide. And here's the problem, with Project 2025, you have some good things, but you have some bad things. The book banning, you're banning adult sexual content that's going to be given be put in K through 12 for students to read that will groom them for the alternative lifestyle behavior, which is, which is a good thing to ban those types of books. All right. If you look on TikTok, you'll see what's in those types of books. All right. And if you're a concerned, caring, and a mentally sound parent, you wouldn't want those books near your kids. You would want those books burned and banned. Now, the problem here is criminalizing homelessness. People fall in hard times, all right? And it's, that it's just inhumane. Okay? That's just inhumane. And being racist against people, that's just wrong, all right? And the thing is like, Black people were taken from their homeland and brought here, all right? Many people, America is a melting pot, all right? And the true immigrant here is the racist whites that came here, all right? And those racist whites who taught that racism down to their children, and their children have the audacity to think that it's right to oppress other people, and to think it's okay to do this. And you know how I blame for this is, not only I blame Klan members in melanin skin, Klan members in Asian skin, who are on the Republican side, who think this is okay, until it's come full circle on you, because you thought you were going to get some, buttermilk biscuits for supporting such racism, and think this is okay. Weaponizing civil rights law and Department of Justice. Project 2025 would direct the U.S. Department of Justice, the DOJ, to spearhead an equity purge in government, including in several key agencies such as the U.S. Department of Defense, the DoD, the U.S. Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Housing, the Urban Development, and the EEOC. This shift would be predicted on the backward notion that any work toward equity is so-called affirmative action that comes at the expense of other Americans and violates long-standing federal law. The plan calls for the DOJ's Civil Rights Division, tasked with protecting Americans from civil rights violations, to reverse the Biden-Harris administration's whole of government approach to equity, and would eliminate agency equity action plans, which the Project 2025 authors dub left-wing race and gender ideology. Project 2025 would also defund the DEIA policies and offices across the federal entity, and civil servants who participated in those initiatives would be identified and susceptible to potential sanction or determination. Civil Rights Division would be unleashed against them, using the full force of the federal prosecutional resources to investigate and prosecute all state and local governments, institutions of higher education, corporations, and any private employers who are engaged in equity work. Sweeping changes would be made to the enforcement of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which specifically prohibits discrimination in employment based on race, color, religion, and national origin. Under Project 2025, the DOJ and EEOC would be tasked with enforcing Title VII against entities that promote critical race theory, equity, or any type of racial classification. This type of crackdown has already been seen in 567 anti-critical race theory bills that were introduced in state legislature in 2023, with more across the country introduced in 2024. Additionally, research shows that major corporations such as Meta, Telsa, DoorDash, Lyft, and Home Depot, Wayfair, and X have cut the size of their DEIA teams by 50% or more in 2023 alone. So you still think Elon Musk is your friend? Seems like Elon Musk is on the side of white supremacy, just with Trump. Let's not forget that Elon Musk, he uses his Starlink to help neo-Nazi Ukraine. Okay, he gives them Wi-Fi. They had fallen by the 43% as of July 2024. The threat of prosecution for the DOJ would worsen these trends, have a chilling effect on the commitment of the DEIA in the private and public sectors, and result in more discrimination and a less equitable workforce. Eliminating protections against discrimination for workers. The EEOC enforces federal laws prohibiting discrimination in the workplace and provides guidance and technical assistance to both employees and employers about how to safeguard against it. EEOC regulations and guidance are a critical tool for explaining and operationalizing anti-discrimination law, turning the promise on paper and statute into our practical protections for workers. In 2023, the EEOC focuses areas including tackling systematic discrimination in all forms and bases, preventing and combating workplace harassment, advancing racial justice, preventing and remedying retaliation, advancing pay equity, and fostering DEIA in the workplace to promote equal opportunity. The most frequently filed claims with the EEOC are allegations of disability discrimination, harassment, or retaliation. In 2023 alone, it secured monetary relief for 22,000 victims of employment discrimination. Project 2025 seeks to handcuff the EEOC and eliminate its ability to issue guidance, regulations, and technical assistance that protect workers of U.S.-based employers or companies on U.S. soil from discrimination. It also seeks to rescind existing regulations calling on the EEOC to disclaim its regulatory pretensions. Additionally, under the plan, the EEOC would be barred from collecting and reporting annual employee statistics based on race and ethnicity, which would weaken worker discrimination protections. The plan rescinds protections against sex discrimination and prohibitions of discrimination based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and transgender status, while allowing enforcement of exemptions for religious organizations so that they may make employment decisions regardless of non-discrimination laws. As a result of these claims, the EEOC would lose much of its power to uses to protect American workers from sexual harassment and assault on the job, wrongful termination based on disability standards, gender pay inequalities, and more. Moreover, Project 2025 called for the elimination of the Office of Federal Contract and Compliance Programs. This office ensures the U.S. Department of Labor enforces Executive Order 1246, which requires federal contractors and subcontractors to comply with the non-discrimination policies. It also seeks to end EEOC's power to enter into consent decrees that require employers to take correct action to correct systematic discrimination. Without EEOC protection and guidance, discrimination in the workplace will be left unchecked. Wow. So all you Trump supporters, get ready to be called the N-word on the job. Get ready to be called racial slurs, whether you're Latino, whether you're whatever your ethnicity is. If you're non-white, it's open season on you in the workplace. Eradicating disparate impact. Disparate impact is a long-standing precedent under the Title VI and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. That has been the central tool in the fight against discrimination toward protected classes in the courts and in the administrative process. Under this principle, proving discrimination does not require intent if the effect of a policy or practice on protected parties is negative. It is a lever widely used by various agencies to combat discrimination, and the Obama administration used it as a high-profile tool in holding big banks accountable for discrimination against homeowners of color during the foreclosure crisis in the early 2000s. Disparate impact has been repeatedly upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court. Project 2025 calls on the next president to sign an executive order forbidding its use and call on Congress to end the practice altogether. So now not only do they could call you the N-word, it could come after your home. This is wild, man. This is insane. All right. I'll leave the link in the description box, but you guys get the idea. All right. It's basically they're basically waging war on minorities, okay, and those of alternative lifestyles. That's all I can say for now. All right. Get ready to buckle up for these next 4 years. Learn to prep and find means to protect yourself and your family. All right. Because the white supremacists are going to come out in full force. Daddy Trump is in office, and his sons of daughters of the devil are going to try and test the boundaries of their new freedom. That's all I got to say. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Later.